Right, good morning, welcome back. Now, if you've ever restored a motorcycle or conducted a project on a bike of any kind that takes you time, money and effort, you'll know already that at some point during the build, you will have to make a decision that's based on what's possible for your pocket rather than what's best for the build. And there's no better example of that than with the rear suspension on my Sportster. Now, in the final days of that 2-year build, I had to make that fateful decision to fit tech shocks on the back of the bike rather than something more high-end. Now, there is nothing wrong with tech shocks. They are perfectly adequate suspension, and these are infinitely better than the raggedy old standard factory things that were falling apart. So it was an okay decision. But now an opportunity has come along to upgrade them to something far better. So why wouldn't I? Now, that opportunity has turned up in the form of these, a pair of YSS G-Series piggyback shocks. Now, in YSS terms, these are the top of their stack. They don't get any better. This is their top of the range product, and they are about £550 a pair. So where did these come from? Well, these were on Penny's Triumph Scrambler when it was fully lowered, and recently we made some 30mm spacer blocks to jack them up a little bit, and now we want that bike to be full factory standard ride height, and that would mean 60mm spacer blocks, and that would be too much. That would be unsafe. You can't put any more than 30mm spacers in, so it means fitting longer shocks from scratch, and that means these are now completely surplus to requirements, and they're absolutely immaculate. So now we can use them on the Sportster. But will they fit? Well, we can only find out, the same as we did on the XJR, by measuring and considering the comparisons. Length is identical. Width of the top lug is identical. And the bottom lug too. Right, so far the physical dimensions are all identical. The next one is quite a critical one. That's the size of the inside diameter of the eyelets. And the top and bottom ones, they're the same, are 14mm, both ends. So that's 14mm, but that's a Harley, and Harley is Imperial, and that is where I think we're going to have a problem. Right, now I don't need to take one of the bolts out of the Harley to measure the diameter because I've got a spare one here from the bolt box. This is exactly the fastener that's in there, and to measure its diameter it is 1/2 inch. So herein lies the problem. I need a spacer because that's 1/2 inch and that's 14mm, and if I put it directly in there it waggles about everywhere, and that would not be safe. So a little bit like the XJR, I need a hybrid spacer this time from 1/2 inch to 14mm. Right, now the first ever time I fitted a pair of tech shocks onto a Sportster many years ago, I spoke with the guys at Tech and they sent me some 1/2 inch bushings deliberately to fit a Sportster. So that's what these have got, 1/2 inch bushings. So let's see if I can whip one of these off and actually rob those bushings out of there to use in the YSS shocks. Right, now taking a look at these side by side. On this side, the tech shock has got the 1/2 inch bushing that we needed. Excellent. So the challenge is, if I press this 1/2 inch bushing out of its plastic surround to harvest it, can I then tap out these split bushings on the YSS side, and will the hole that remains accept that bushing nice and tight? Let's tap one out and see. Right, that's them all removed. And before I see if one will fit the other, here's a thing. The material used in these eyelets that's there to absorb vibration, on the Tech Shock, it's a hard plastic like Delrin. But on the YSS shock, this is a high density rubber like you get in OEM shocks. But anyway, that wasn't the question. The question was, does this fit? Like a glove. So with that happy result, it just leaves me to swap the other three over and test fit them. Right, now what an absolute result. Not only do these metal spacers fit nice and tight into the rubber bushing, exactly as they should, but also they stand proud, exactly as they should, about 1 millimetre either side, so that when you do the bolt up nice and tight, it's only that metal sleeve that's getting pressed on. The rest of the shock is free to move. Nothing's actually touching the casting or the rubber bushing itself. Exactly correct. Anyway, let's fit them on and see how they look. Okay, well, thanks to commonality within the world of engineering, they fit. They physically fit straight on. Those collets are perfect. They are exactly the right size for that fitment, and I'm really happy it was that easy. Again, now the only question remaining is the spring rate of these YSS shocks correct for the Sportster? Now, the Sportster was originally just over 250 kilos, and the Scrambler originally was 230 kilos. And I say originally because they both shed weight. They've both lost their standard factory exhausts, but I think the Sportster's lost a little bit more. I've cut the fender struts off, those big lumps of iron on the back, there's no foot pegs on the back, half the fender's missing, and no pillion is ever going to sit on this bike. So I think, although the Sportster might be a tiny bit heavier than the Scrambler, I'd say there's not much in it, and we are within scope. Now, good thing with the YSS G series shocks is they're massively adjustable. We've got preload, and I'm not using any of it at the minute. And if it's a little heavier, I might just need a little bit of preload to accommodate that. And of course, we've got compression and rebound damping as well. So I think the next thing we need to do is take this bike out for a ride, take the adjusting tools with us, and set these shocks up so they're absolutely perfect, because it's a cafe racer style bike. It's about a little bit of performance, a little bit of handling. We've got some bendy country lanes around here. It's summer. So in the next video, I think we'll take it out and we'll take a little bit of time to set them up so they're just right. I'll see you for that.